Good morning, everyone. It's now 12 o'clock. Just a quick sound check. Can you hear me? Okay, awesome. Let's give some of the others time to get in because next week is the exams begin. We have lab exam with 15%, and the week after is your midterm exam with, I think, 25%. Okay, so if you have to get some water, get it now. It's 12:02. Let's start when we have about 120 people, maybe. Check your course outline to see when your lab exam is. That's my first response passer. Check everything again. Okay, if you just came in, we have about 2 more minutes. I was going to start at 12:05 regardless, and or when we have 120 people in. If you know people just came from another class, please let them come across. When it comes down to exam time, those are the classes people generally shouldn't be missing. Thanks, Akadi. Yeah, don't follow what people say. Check it up yourself. But that's good enough still. I'm gonna go through all that today anyway. Just giving any last people time to get in, and then we'll begin. It's 12:04. I am good, I guess. I'm good. Thanks for asking. Same sort of stress as y'all, right? But a little different. I think you're under more pressure than I am. But thanks for asking. Generally speaking, students have more stress. For me, it's just I think it's just the volume of classes and different activities going on. But I'm good. Pretty good all around. Okie doke. It's 12:05, 95 people in. All right, let's get started. So I'm going to start recording. I'll take off my video shortly. I just think it's important to say morning sometimes. See your face on the other side. So let me share my screen. And record.
Recording in progress.
Okay, great. Awesome. Good morning, everyone. Welcome again. We're at week 5 in the semester. It's going pretty quickly. I know a lot of you are probably getting under pressure now. It's not your first time at George Brown studying. So let's see where we are. We trying to be successful this semester and focusing on strategies, positive strategies to get to where we need to get to. So today, the agenda is a bit flexible. There are specific things I want to teach you, but I'm in exam mode. You should be in exam mode. And what do I mean by that? So let's go through a few things. First and foremost, let's see where we are in this semester, right? And this is so that you can gauge how much work you have to do, where you're at, and so on. We should be here, week 5, right? That's just where my mouse is. It's not showing it correctly, but yes, week 5 here. You had your mini assignment given to you, and your mini assignment was due at the end of last week, right? And today technically is the last day you can submit, but of course you only can get 20% of the marks. That's two marks maximum. So it really doesn't make that much sense, but it's up to you depending on your situation. You can email it in, of course. I sent a message out. So yeah, the good news is we have finished all of these topics. These topics are small topics, right? They generally take half an hour to teach or less. But as you realize, they take a while to master, right? So that's why in the first half of this course, everything is given 2 weeks to digest. This topic was taught last week. Why? So that you have 1, 2, 3 weeks to digest it before the midterm exam. It also means you have time to catch up on any aspect with the recordings there already, and we do labs. We have the lab examples so that you have time to work on. So between now and the exam, there's no new major topic for me to teach. However, between now and the exam, my aims are to get you ready for the exams, to give those who feel a little weak, need some practice. This is an applied diploma you're doing. Applied doesn't mean that you sit back. Applied also has to do with designing. So this course is very, very much applied, actually. So what we want to focus on today is actually getting you ready for the exam. You have your lab test next week, and that's big. That's 15%. And the week after, you have your midterm exam. They will be giving you a midterm schedule shortly. I'm not sure if you got it as yet, but they will be giving you a midterm exam week, the exact outline of when you have to show up for your exams. That'll be given by the department, I'm assuming. So yeah, we want to get you ready for this. So today has 2 objectives. Objective A is to practice a question similar to the midterm exam, that sort of scenario question. B, to show you what a lab exam could look like, for example, for a course like this, right? This is all recorded. And then C, for me to actually code through some solutions so you have an idea and are prepared for everything. What will you be doing in the labs this week? This week in the labs, same thing. However, we'll be preparing specifically for the lab exam next week, right? I suggest if you've been missing labs or you're unsure about the labs, you show up to the lab and actually try and make an effort on it. Please note, for the lab exam, you'll be using the school machines, not your personal machines, right? So it's also useful for you, especially if you've never used the school machines before, or you're not accustomed to that environment or any other issues like that, that you come to the labs, because that's why we have the lab, especially the one this week, for everybody to try using the school machines, so you get a very clear idea of where things are. If you happen to use something else, for example, you might be accustomed using, I don't know, VS Code instead of Visual Studio that we have there, right? So just to be clear, it is your responsibility to make sure you come and get prepped for the exam. That's my aim, to help everybody out. So all your questions about the exams will be handled in these next 2 weeks. All right? Okay. The official is Visual Studio. The original is Visual Studio. That's what you'll be using for the lab exam. But the environment doesn't really matter too much, honestly speaking. It's simple code that we're just typing up. So it's just making classes and doing it up. But I want to make sure everybody is familiar with, file, new class, and make sure that they're not like on the day, like, sir, I didn't know how to use this. I didn't know how to do this. I don't help you. You get absolutely nothing because we're told here, you have the labs. We didn't want this tomorrow and on Thursday. So make sure if you're a customer on your laptop alone that you come just to make sure everything is down, right? Good point. Good question, Matthias. Okay. Let's go. So first things first. Let's take a look at what a typical lab exam might look like. Not typical, but one might have looked like. Now, this one might seem a bit hard for you. This is like an old one from 2019 or something. So can you see my screen clearly? Can somebody just say yes if you're seeing this clearish? Now, this is recorded, so you could go back to it. Cool. So imagine this is the days when we used to have 4 lab exams. Like literally 4. Oh, my sound is glitching. All right, let me see. Yeah, is it better now? Okay, I just swapped. If this continues, I'll switch to my laptop. We might have a small break, and I switch to my laptop, okay? The minute it happens, let me know, okay? I'm using my desktop, a different machine setup altogether today. So I want to make sure that, yeah, we just want to make sure everything runs smooth. But if it does tap out, I'm going to go straight to my other machine. Okay, so these are all exams. You would get a printed copy of the exam. It's not online. So everybody comes into the class, they get a printed copy of the exam, which you give up at the end. And the exam will usually consist of a UML diagram to draw. Better drawn than this. So write a C# programmer implements the UML design shown below exactly, right? So if something has private, you put private. Even if you think it's a mistake, right? It might be, but the point is your marks will go through, be appropriately balanced if everybody follows it. Okay. Now, what you will have in your exam is this. You will have this element. You have some manager class. Is that clear? I'm trying to. I know I'm talking in a very dry fashion, right? But what I'm trying to say is that make your expectations are very clear. You will have some sort of employee manager or account manager, a manager in next week's exam. That manager will have this general set of things I'm asking. You will have at least 3 attributes. Usually it's just 3. How you have to use arrays. So it'll be something like number of employees, max employees, and then your array of employees, right? You'll have 1 constructor, maybe 2, usually 1 for managers that will ask you to set everything up. And you might have overloading going on, multiple ways to add a particular employee. So for example, in this case, you have an employee, but there are 2 types of employees. They could be a staff member or a manager, right? A staff member just has a position and a string, and they could print themselves. The manager has additional information such as the number of subordinates and a list of all the employees he manages and the maximum number he can manage. Okay, so so immediate boss is an employee. So this is actually like self-linking to itself, and people can move around as well. So it's very clear, getters and setter values for all states, to string, and whatever you need to start up the basic set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. There's no programming here in this section normally. This question is a bit unique. You're not going to get one where you have a list like you're not going to have in your exams next week, none of the sections where you have a self-collecting list like this. Okay, I'll say that again because somebody's going to ask me later on, and I just won't answer because I don't have to. Yes, for staff, it'll have the position and string only. So that's what make this different from the manager. Okay. Um, so in a case like this, what I'm trying to get you to is this: what you know for sure is going to be next week. You're going to have a manager. You're going to have to deal with basic arrays. You're going to have to do, of course, basic adding and some other operations, switching and printing. That's usually it. You'll have some class that will be inherited from, and it might have multiple inheritance. Usually it has multiple sections to it, and that's it. You wouldn't have this sort of loop back or an array inside here. You will have overloading where you have multiple things with the same name. For example, add employee, but different parameters. Notice it changes at the end. Or, and you'll also have overloading, which might occur. It doesn't have to be in the form of toString. It could be in the form of something else. Are we clear? But this is a general format. One manager, one class to extend from, and two to four um, subclasses or subsections inheriting from that. Okay. Any additional information would be listed after. Okay. So it'll be a printed paper with all the information on it, which you hand up. Any questions in terms of the format? Okay. It's a lab exam. Yes. Everything is being done on the PC. Yeah. You have to code it on the school PCs. This is the lab exam I'm dealing with. Sorry. Now, you would be given a Word document to submit this into. So you'll be submitting this into a Word document or submitting each class into the into Blackboard. Okay, you follow the instructions on the day, and that's it. So basically, the same way I draw the diagrams every single week, we draw the diagrams. That's what you're going to get. Okay. So I'm going to do an example of something like this, the core concepts you need after that's part of today's class, a recorded version of me creating something like this. Are we clear? So don't worry too much about it. We're going to do one of those here for the recording for everybody. And then after that, we have the lab tomorrow. Okay. The other thing I want to prepare you for is okay, all of those things we'll talk about tomorrow. Your lab test is not the whole time frame. Normally you have 1 hour. So you do your hour and then you leave, right? That's normally it, an hour and 10 minutes, right? In terms of timing. Some people have extra timing. Some people have special cases. So those are adjusted automatically, but those are private, right? So yeah, that's separate. But the exam is going to be an hour to hour and 10 minutes maximum. That's the time frame. Because the code is not much. It is what you know and are able to do, right? In that time frame. Now, next thing. On your midterm exam, which is going to be the week after, you have one question that's going to be of this format. I did every single week, well, not every single week, the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we did 3 questions, 2 questions, 2 or 3, can't remember exactly. We have done questions where you have to draw a UML diagram, indicating your classes that you find, your relationships, things like that. So here's a very short one for us to try and do. You're going to work on it for me now, and then I'm going to do the solution. I'll tell you up front, this is a past question that you can find online from, I think, University of Toronto. So it's, you're supposed to just say those things. Everything is modified, I think, slightly from it. But that's where the inspiration came from for this one that I decided for today's class. Okay. And you would even find some solutions that they have that aren't ideal, but they have some basic, um, you know, uh, item for it. Okay, Ahmad, come to class tomorrow. I've been telling this for weeks. I'm not going to repeat myself, but yes, you will come tomorrow and we can, or on Thursday, and I'll answer those questions because all that has been answered already. Okay, so let's go. So, first exercise, everyone here. We're going to take 10 minutes and draw this out as perfect as possible, right? You should have pen and paper. Okay, I'm not there watching what you do, but your exam is in 2 weeks' time. It should be a highly invigilated exam. The department is organizing your schedules for it. So you need to know what you're doing for the midterm test. Okay, just to be clear. So it is now 12:23. At 12:35, I am going to start the solution. Okay, you're doing a complete class diagram, and then I'm going to do a solution for you. Okay, somebody just make sure, are we clear on this? If somebody just walks into class now, they should see this here. Your art class is going to be given to you in the next half an hour, right? Make sure you're here to get it. Yeah. Okay, cool. So go for it. Today I am doing problems with you to give you a recorded end-to-end solution for this. And then I'm going to go and do literally an end-to-end example, hypothetical example of stuff you might get um, for your your lab exam. So you have a recording of both in terms of the idea weeks ahead. I think it's important this week to do that. So go ahead. I'm going to be silent. I'm here for the next 10 minutes or so. you have to work out the data types. So trying it on your own, you decide on those things. Um, in terms of if the captain is Boolean and things like that. Also, when it comes to the exam, you're trying to do the best UML you can, but I'll tell you how you'll get a better idea today on how the marking scheme um, might go or will go in these situations. Okay, so you have about 5 more minutes before I start doing this. Now, in the actual exam, this is for the midterm. You would probably be allocated about 35 to 40 minutes for this. You don't need that time. In terms of the exam, right? Giving people time to work things out. And the multiple choice fills in the rest. Okay, happy people, I'm going to start now. I said I start at 12:35, but I actually technically started at, gave you all this exercise at 10 minutes at 23 past. So I'm using this time So you'll actually be able to have advantage for us to do a little bit more. Okay, so hopefully you're still awake, and let's begin. So first thing I'm going to do is look for part of possible classes. Now, we know there are a few approaches we can use. One is called the noun-based approach. You're looking for transactions, and you can also be looking for manager classes, right? So you're looking for nouns, anything that you store information on. These aren't necessarily nouns. They store an action or process data about it. So transactions. And last but not least, do we need anything to manage other collections around? So you're looking for managers. These are just guidelines for a person to start thinking in an object-oriented way, like check boxes to say, I thought about this, what did I get? Okay, this is the process we're going to do. By the way, is my mic okay with my new system setup? Is it fine so far? All right, beautiful, great. Okay, so I'm reading this through, we have a league. So a hockey league, I don't know if I could bold in Notepad. Can you? Nope, you can't bold in Notepad++, in normal Notepad. So what I'm going to do is come and put league. I'm going to write it in lowercase just because I'm pulling it straight out from here. So league is a possibility. I don't know if it's the answer yet, but it's a possibility. Okay. What else? I see teams, hockey teams. A team is something. So we have league, we have the idea of a team. What else do we have? Each hockey team is composed of 6 to 12 players. So player is a possibility. That players, one player captains a team. So you have the idea of a captain. A team has a name and a record. So this now tells me, notice I'm doing this. I'm putting in brackets because I'm doing it on a computer. I want to write information then that I know. So we actually store this. Players have a number and a position. Oh, so players are important, number and position. So do you see what I'm doing? I'm grouping, I'm pulling the data out and associating them in the ways that they say here as a first pass. Hockey teams play games against each other. So the idea of a game, so they play games. So you have a game. Each game has a score and location. So that tells me something about the game. Score, comma, location. So I'm going to pause here for a second. This is a very good example of the noun-based approach and looking at the data you need to record and putting it where it needs to go. Okay. Teams are sometimes led by a coach. A coach has a level of accreditation and the number of years experience. Okay, and you can coach multiple teams. Coaches and players are people. And people have names and addresses. Now, this is meant to be a simple example to get everybody kind of warmed up, an easier confidence level of how to extract things. Now, everything here, I think, is a class. Okay. There are no transactions here. So notice. I think we got all the nouns. I only read it once. In exam, you read it twice, 3 times. I don't think there were any transactions. Managers, we'll figure out after. So far, okay. Today is, you're getting a recorded slow, we working together. If you didn't get the right same answers, it's fine. But do you see why I think these are for now? So now I'm going to go and pull this across the diagram. Relationships, first of all, sorry. I'm looking for is a relationships. Is any player another player? And anything another thing. Um, Address class. Mm, no, because address is an attribute. Okay, so people have names and addresses. Now, if you wanted to put it as a separate class, because you can have separate addresses that expand, I would put that after. So player and people are coaches. Kamal, you said that. I think you're right, but I'm looking for where it was. It was written. Coaches and players are people. So where's it? Players are people. So a player is a person, and a coach is a person, right? That's inheritance. What else did you guys come up with? Let's see. Captain is a player. Yes, that's a good one. And that's correct. So captain is a player. Okay, so I'm going to start drawing it out on this side because it's going to get messy on that other side. Okay, so let's go. I'm going to write probably person first because coaches, players are people. People have names. So person, according to convention, once again, your UML diagram that's being tested, right? Has a capital letters, how you write your classes. They're written in a singular, right? And you write whatever attributes that you know. So a person class has two attributes so far, name and address. For now, that's all it said. So we have name and address so far. Now we have, what is it? Player. And we also have coach. Put player on this side. And I'll just write coach separate. Now let's take a look at each of these. A coach has some information. The coach has accreditation. Yes. I'll leave it as that for now. I'll move this one across. Now, of course, you're drawing this by hand for the exam, so it's much faster. And even with all of this, we'll still finish in time with this one here. What is the player? Player has a number and a position. Okay. So let's get these diagrams going. So we have this, boom, we have this, boom, 1, 2, 3, 4. Please note you must have the 3 sections. I'm saying little notes as we go through because for an exam, you're being tested on your ability to do the design to standard, which is the UML standard, right? So you have to be able to draw correct UML diagram. Now, captain is also a person, yes. And he's a player. Now, the captain, every team has a captain. So we bring in a team somehow. We bring that in just now, but let me get the basic relationship here. There's no special information about the captain. They just have a status on the team. So far, these are very clear relationships that should be there. People, coach, captain, player. So we have a good section that's through, right? Now, I'm going back and forth with the chat because this is a worked example, right? We actually, today's a study session, recording. Everybody gets up to speed if they missed anything. That's my aim. Now, a league consists of teams. A league is made up of at least 4 teams, so it has teams. So team and league. So let's put team. Team is important because coach is for team, right? Teams are sometimes led by coach. So team, players, all these things are related to a team. So where do I put team? I'm going to put it on this screen in a nice area. I think I'm going to move things around. I'm going to move things here. Okay, I'll just leave it here for now. So I'm going to put a team here. So we have our team and what information this team have, a name and a record. I'll put this here, put this down here, and let's add name and record in here. Okay. Now, what is really missing here? We'll talk about using private, public, and all that, as we go through. So first of all, I'm following exactly what they said. Every team, where's team? One player captains a team. Okay. A team has a name and a record. Players have a number and position. Hockey team plays against each other. Right. So that's the next step. So team consists of players. A team consists of players. This one I could draw straight. So it consists of a number of players, and a team also has a captain. Did it say it must have a captain? Or one player captains a team. So it's also important. Okay. So captain is separate. Okay. Now, it's a weird relationship. It has these and it has this, but it works well. What's the next thing that we have? Coach. A team is sometimes led by a coach. Some team may have a coach as well. Okay, the team doesn't have to have a coach, and a coach can actually can coach multiple teams, right? So this is I'm going to do here with a
Teacher, your mic.
Thanks for letting me know. I might have to switch across to my laptop. Okay. Is it still glitching?
No, it's a lot better.
All right, but I'm not going to stay on this system. I'll try and finish this out. Stop the recording, and I'll then go across to the other machine. I'm just giving this one a shot, but I don't want to mess up the recording for everybody, right? I want it to be smooth. So I'm going to finish. Thanks for letting me know. I'm going to go back to the laptop after this example. Okay. Where did we reach? Okay, I just added team. I added coach. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about game. So team, game, and league. So we just add the last 3. So a league, you might say consists. We'll talk about if the league could be a manager class shortly. But I want to put the idea of a game first. What does a game have? Game has a score locations. Let's put those 2 there. Boom, boom, boom. All right, so we have this. So a game, it's by two teams. You could have a game manager. We talk about the managers coming in after here, but right now this is what we have. Okay, so a game consists of records information between two teams. All right. If you want to show it as two separate things that you have, you can do it as that. But other than that, the game is basically acting like how you have a loan or rental. It's a labeled activity that exists between the two. So now we have this weird thing called league. Now there's a little leeway here, right? League has no information. Do we make the league a manager or not? You could. If you think of it as, and I would give you marks, honestly, that a league is made up of teams. So the league is where you would add your teams, you do your teams, everything else up. So I would actually put it here. But after saying that, under exam conditions, if you made team manager, but that connected to league, I would allow that. Okay. So you could make the league sort of like a coordinator at the top. Okay. Now, technically speaking, let's go to that sort of feeling, that sort of idea. I'll call this the boom. What do you think I'm doing here? Anybody, what do you think I'm doing here? The one thing that we've done a lot of. You need a way to create games, etc. So if you leave this as league, change the name on top here. If you want to call this league, put league here, change the name on top here. Otherwise, leave it the other way. So y'all can pick either one, but I want to be clear with y'all. You still need this. So you have the game manager. So when you want to set up games, that's totally separate from seeing who are the players and who are the teams and who's coaching what. All that can be gotten from this side. So this is the game manager. This is an option here. You want to add and remove teams. You want to add players to teams. Players can be sold from one team to another team, things like that, right? So what are you going to call this one? You don't call it a person manager. What do you call when you manage people on a team? Not the HRM system. I'll just call it person manager. Member manager. Just give it a name like that. So, hi, I want to form a new team. Go to the league, team manager, adds team. It gets a name and a record. Now, when you form the team, you can also say, okay, this team, I'd like to add Michael as the coach, right? So that coordinator is going to find Michael if they exist in the system and send that information to the team manager who adds that person to their team as a coach, captain. You can do the same for player, you can do the same for coach, all right? Now, I have a game that's going on. I want to create a new game, a particular stadium, right? You create that game. Now, the score is part of it, but the game hasn't taken place yet, for example. So you put that in. And yeah, so you could register the teams for it. What would that need? You need to click on the two teams, or in the system, you might have a graphical user interface like this, for example. where you have a list of all your teams. Within 2 weeks, Umar. So by next week, Friday, for the latest. Normal time frame. You probably get it before, but I'm not going to tie myself to that. So you might have a list of all the teams, and you might have a system where you have all the teams, Manchester United, this, that, and well, sorry, this is hockey. And you might say, oh, we want to have a game at a particular stadium. You choose from your stadium lists, right? So you have a list of all the stadiums. You say this is the details. You put in the date from some sort of calendar. You fill out all the details for your game, right? Cool. And then you tick the 2 teams you wish. Everybody's following me so far? Give me a quick yes. So I know that others hearing the recording will actually have some sense that, okay, they're there. Right. So this might be the interface, but this is the backend. How is this interface formed? On your phone or whatever it is, you would literally have a call saying select star from the team manager. The team manager gives you a list of all the teams and you display that. So this list was formed from the team manager. It goes through the league, right? Everything goes through the league. This is what I call the league. This is your coordinator, right? But the coordinator forwards it out. And then you want to know, well, you're creating a game. You haven't created the game yet. You're putting in the details and names, etc. for it. And then when you tick, let's say this item and this item, and you click create game, you click that create button. At that point in time, you have everything you need. You have the 2 people, the 2 teams, and then the request is sent to the game manager with all the information. Create a game with this name, this date, this time, blah, 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 and the game is created. And it already has the 2 things it needs to be connected to, and it's set up, right? When you're looking for a game to update the score, you're looking for that game ID or for that game specifically, and you update the score. The game manager does that. You might have a function called update score, view score, whatever it is. So these managers make sure that the information flows in and out correctly between them. Somebody answer the last question. Is it a UML diagram, first of all? Is that UML? The answer is no. So who's handling what? Team list and game details? It's right here. Team manager handles the team list. Adding teams, removing teams, list of teams, the full works. That's what managers are for. So these managers, okay, you'll need to review a bit. If you've missed a few weeks of class, you got to review it. This is one of the most important things. The manager classes is an important concept. Be clear what these classes do. They literally are the ones who are going to be doing. That's it. The whole point is to handle everything to do with teams, right? Creation, deletion, moving in and out, everything to do with games, creating a game, updating scores, getting details on a game, etc. Anything to do with staffing, members, players across it. So, no, not on the lab test. But come to the lab to talk about the lab test. I'm not discussing the lab test anymore. You guys come to the lab and ask questions about it. All right. So let's stop this now, recording-wise. Not yet. Let's talk about 1 or 2 last things, just in case my mic would go through. Yes, they would have main teams. Jaden, nice. Nice catch. So Jaden talked about the min teams. Why? Because it's actually there. It's the mouse. Okay. Now, what if you did this? You have identified 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, the important classes. You have identified your inheritance relationships, your aggregation relationships. However, your state, right? These are the state extracted from here, right? The state should be put with at least your minus before your private. The default is always private. If you put plus, just because you think you'll get the mark, you don't just get the mark. They have to have a reason for it. Okay, so heavily identifiable reason that they put in here or indicated in here. It's not about how you would do it, it's what you get in your modeling first, what information you got. So these need to have the scope. The data type on the end, whether you put int or float, right? Like things like that, is up to you. I'll say that again. For the exam, right? For this written exam, that's the midterm. Putting these in is nice, but the mark is actually given for your scope and identifying the variables. So if you got this wrong or you didn't put it in, you wouldn't lose any marks. And I know some people will not be listening. I'll say it one more time, and then you'll have to live through the recording to get this information. Not that it makes a difference to you too much in the exam if you do it fully. You must add scope, which is your minus, plus, or hash. Okay, that's number 1. 2, the data type, which is the colon type that you put after, for example, like this. In your midterm exam, in this question only, when you're drawing it, I don't have a mark for the data type. So if you put minus name, that's fine. Minus accreditation, dash years, dash number of positions, and so on. That's fine. Is this clear? Okay. So in the exam, if you did something like this with your minuses, you would get. Now, are there any functions here? Are there any behaviors in this example? No. So these will all be blank. If you make up and put some in, that's fine, but it's wasting your time. An exam means you have limited time. Nope, you don't need to put get and set the methods. Kind of good ask. If you do not have a clear, if they say you should be able to search for coaches and add teams, then you need to put search, right? And the ability to add teams here. But if they didn't say that, you don't put it in. If you do, you don't lose anything. It just wastes your time, but there are no marks for it. In the case of the game in Game Manager, yeah, that's not by design. That's how you should do it. So for the last text, there, in this case, team manager has to return an instance of a certain team. That's how the design is supposed to go. Okay, in OP, that's exactly how it's supposed to go. It's communicating. So the coordinator is like a person, like Samuel. I'm just going to pick a name. Samuel is the coordinator of our department. I'm in charge of the teams, right? And Jonathan, you're in charge of the games. Cool. You want to form a game. Samuel is our coordinator, right? I say, Samuel, we need to form a game. And he's like, okay, we want to do this job. Samuel is in charge. Somebody says, hey, we want to form a game. And Samuel's like, okay, hey, I said Samuel's teams. Okay, let's say I'm in charge of teams. Samuel said, Andrew, what are the teams we have? And I give him a big manual with all the team lists. And you give it to the person, and the person says, okay, I want to get this team and this team. So Samuel just knows and records which teams you want, and the details about the game and what he wants to make. And then he just sends that across to Jonathan and says, hey, Jonathan, make a game for all this stuff for me. And Jonathan opens his book and he goes and writes down, okay, we have a new entry. It's done. OP is about literally message passing. So this is that. Okay, it's 1:04. You have an exam next week, and I would like to do the second half of this on code. Okay, I'd like to code the second half. I think I will, just to give you main elements that might be in a very lightweight version of what might be in your lab exam. So everybody has a recording today that, we do it. Okay, so I'll leave this up for a few seconds, then I'll take it off. Okay. Now notice this one had no transactions. This one had no behavior. But it was a very good exercise in terms of just the data and management and relationships with inheritance, this. Okay, so I'm taking this off now. I can't go back once I delete it. I could undo, I guess, but I'm closing off the whole Paint application. So I want to start focusing on the other piece. All right. Why would we need a league manager? You figure that out if you need a league manager and why. You don't just make managers for fun. This is about a league. One league. Yeah, it's so don't let off rules. Oh, I have something, I have to make a manager for it like that. That's generally a case with, as I explained from the beginning of this term almost, when you have the basic data types, you want to add, remove, search for, and all these things. If you want to add and remove leagues like at the international level and search, then yes, this mentions none of that. Okay, that's why. So when you put manager classes, once again, if you have to manage something, add, remove, delete, search, update, something, all those operations need to go in something that's in charge of that. That's what these are for. If you don't have any of that features, then it's not a manager. Okay. So this was good. I'm going to stop recording and then I'm going to start recording again. Where do I go? Stop.
Recording stopped.
I'm going to start recording again just so that you have two separate videos. One with me explaining this and, the other one.
Recording in progress.
Okay. We're in the second half of this class. Let me put up the add class first. The add class code. Everybody, please get into hook in your add class if you need to. It's managed class, this one. Tuesday. Also, the dashboard might have it. LA73. You can type it into the chat, please, someone, because somebody's going to ask later on. So we'll say add class code because they were here for 20 minutes, or they might have just gone to the washroom. So I'll leave it up for a little bit. LA73. Oh, I think everybody beat me to it, so that's good. And I'm going to start Visual Studio in the meantime. So here's a recording of Visual Studio, which is what you'll be using in your exam. That's supposed to be installed on all the machines. If there are any issues, we just switch to something else. But right now, this is what you should be using when we practice it this week. Okay, so I'm going to take this. I don't need that anymore. And I'm going to go to Microsoft Paint. Now, let's talk about now your lab exam. You have one lab exam instead of 4. The lab exam tests very specific skills. Your lab exam is about, focuses more presently on the coding than the, oh, that's kind of large. Give me 1 second. Oh, okay. 1 second. Okay, let's go again. All right. So your lab exam has 75% of the marks come from what we call a coding base, coding skill. And 25% of the marks will have classes that are related to programming. Now, coding is a subset of programming. Not going to go too much into that again. You should know that by now. The general design of your exam is going to be as follows. You'll have a manager class of some type. Okay. And that manager will be managing some item. That item could be a person, it could be anything under the sun, right? So in this manager class, you're going to have features, for example, things like add, remove, delete, creating new items, things like that. Okay. I'll give you typical functions shortly. In your exam, this must be implemented with arrays. Without arrays, you get 0 marks for those things. That's been stated from the beginning of the course. Let's see. So we might have minus no items. Okay. Yeah, so you have those 3. General format. This would usually have 2 things that expand. And then under that, you might have one that expands further. Okay. So this is kind of like the typical, everybody's exam will have some elements of this. It might vary slightly, right? But this is the general skill set that everybody's being tested with. You need to be able to implement this sort of idea. I'm going to ask if you guys are clear on this very shortly. Not if you could do it, that's up to you. But this is the general format of your exam. Are we clear on this? That's the outer structure. 1 aggregation, only 1, and inheritance. Now, coupled with this, you will have polymorphism tested in the form of overloading and overriding. You might have overloading here with multiple add methods. So add, that takes a certain number of parameters, and then another add method that takes more parameters or less parameters. Okay, that's what type of polymorphism is this? You might have some other function x, y, z that takes, you might have it multiple places, but you have to identify it, right? So that's overloading. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Good. Now, I need to identify that. I'm showing you this way in the recording so you see it clearly. Same name, different parameters or types of parameters. You can both have one parameter, but if one takes an int and one takes a string, it's different, right? So that's allowed too. Now, if you see the exact same thing written twice, for example, calculate, I don't know, calculate value, right? Whether or not it takes parameters, and you see it exactly typed like this, even if it is all the way down here, this indicates overriding. The exact same name, it is inherited. This will override that one. Will I give you static variables and static methods in your exam? No. I'm saying that verbally. Will you be getting static variables to be added in here, right? Or static methods, which I could, but I'm not. None of the 6 sections, none of the sections I'm doing, I'm giving that in. Are we clear on that? You're not going to get any static code methods or functions. Basics, aggregation, inheritance, overloading, overriding. Are we good? Complexity of the question, one manager class, you will definitely have this sort of structure, but it most likely will also have at least one of them further extended. Any questions about the structure? Okay, so I'm going to code a very lightweight example. I'm going to use accounts. Okay, a basic account example. Account with a checking account and a savings account. So you see what you'd have to code to. You have 1 hour and 16 minutes in. Actually, I won't even use account. I'll use something else. Because your stuff will actually have less to do. So I'm going to create a new project. Console. Next. Next. .NET 5. All right. But that only has to go and update. Can't leave it here. So let's go. Try and finish this out on time so you have a nice, basically we did an exam, 2 exams, well, a question and an exam and something else in the same time frame. So I'm going to create a scenario here. I'm not going to use account. Give me a moment. Let me not share screen. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. And I'm actually probably going to look for past exam. I'm sure you would like that instead. Sorry about that. In the meantime, you can ask any questions, put it in the chat or otherwise, concerning only these specific things. Okay, I'm going to share my screen, and when I share it, let me know if it's visible. So, is this visible? Partially. Okay, so you're not going to get an exam like this. You're not. But this is actually a past lab exam, right? Another one. This is one of the more advanced ones. So it just has little notes. Robots has to do with robots. I always give you a precursor. This is when you do abstract classes and you do interfaces. These are interfaces are shown. This is after the break. So after week 7, we go into interfaces, abstract classes, things like these. You don't have any exam after the break. Are we clear? Please don't ask me 2 weeks from now, sir, do we have an exam after the break? I still want to get understand. I'm showing you just an example of how things will come, could come, in terms of like how it's presented, right? They're very straightforward diagram. They'll tell you directly, like this is abstract, so that you don't have abstract methods. So this is like what we're going to be doing after the break. An exam closer to what you would have would be one like this. So this is right up the alley of what you might get next week. Here's your exam. Notice, how's the time frame? 60 minutes. Normal time. Okay. Now, I'll zoom in a bit. I wanted everything on the screen. You have one manager class that manages properties, ID, area, number rooms, neighborhood, etc. These are just getters. Notice, is there any programming here? No, getters, right? So villa, blah, 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 blah. You code that, paste the code, upload, right? It varies. So if you want, I will do this exam, if I can, in 20 minutes, maybe, depends on how fast I go. Do this, yes or no? This is like last year or the year before exam. But you prefer me to do something else? Okay, I'll do this one. All right, so if this is the exam, we're doing this together. I might go straight to the hour, okay, just to make sure we have a recording. I would look at the exam and I would see, okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 classes to write, 5 classes to write. This class comes last. As I told you in this recording, 25% of your marks would be for this, the programming part. The rest, which is just showing this implementation, is going to be with 75%, right? So of course, these all inherit from property. So property, you have villas and apartments, and a furnished apartment is different from an apartment, right? Slightly different in terms of how you sell it. So I'm going to do this now. I'm going to start with property. Now, I might be a little more silent than I was because I want to make sure it's done. I'm doing it like a student in the exam. This is the speed you should be doing it at. It's not about, sir, you know more than us. This is coding. This is zero programming at this stage. Okay, this is stuff that you should be able to do if you've been, doing a little bit here and there. It doesn't mean that if you didn't, that you're a bad student. Life takes over, right? But I'm giving you my expectations. So it's now 1:23. Let's say the exam started. I'm looking at this. I have nothing to think about. Just say new item. He said property. I write the word property. Okay, I'll talk it as I go through. It might slow me down, but that's it. Okay, so class property. In your case, I might say internal class property. Doesn't matter. Hash means protected. Int ID. Notice, I'm not stopping. There's nothing to do. It's not about writing fast or slow. I use the autocomplete double area. Protected. Int, for those who want to know, if it starts to autocomplete how to do it, you just press tab. So numbers, new rooms in the house. Protected string neighborhood. And then protected double price. Okay, so I'm finished that, and I have a constructor, public property. Let's see. Against ID, we have double area. What else do I have? Into rooms. String. Neighborhood. And double price. Okay. All right. And I set my stuff. So I say this dot ID. I don't have autocomplete on this older version. I should have used 2022. This is 2019. This is like, wow, 7 years old version. So I have to type it out manually. In your exam, it'll be easy for you. This set ID equal ID. This dot. So this should be the longest you could ever take to do an exam. This dot number of rooms equal number of rooms. This dot. And please don't ask me to put this up online. I'm not putting this up online, not for any reason other than, you know, I'm not into just enabling you. I mean, here's for you to understand how to do it. You have to practice it yourself on different things, right? So this code will not be put up online. You have a recording of it. Right? So let me look for questions as we're going to use. Okay, you have to learn about private and protected. Not teaching those things. Should what not be used for number rooms? I'm unsure. Okay, not sure what's being asked. I'm following this straight for here. Probably 1 or 2 errors. I think there was an error in this exam, but it won't be that. Get ID, return ID. So I have to do all the getters. Boom, boom, boom. I really missed the autocomplete. Now, for the exam, don't go and change the names of the functions, okay? If you do that, you don't get anything for them. And the reason is direct, right? You're implementing something. It's not, oh, I think that should be this, and that should be that, and blah, blah, blah. I'm testing things here. That's what, you know, just to put everybody in perspective as we're going through this. I'm seeing all these little things, right? Sometimes people get a bit of ahead of themselves quickly, you know, and they don't realize, hey, yeah. What is this? Neighborhood? Oh. You don't know what that is, do you? Okay, neighborhood. And public double get price. So I just took the longest class to do. That's literally the longest class to do. Okay. Okay, and I think that's it. So I'll return. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it like that for now. I'm going to go to my main program, create a property, and then print that property in here. What does it take? I know. The area is 1,500 square feet. It has 4 rooms. It's in North York, and the price is 790,000. Okay. Okay. So let's run this. I'm doing the exam. I'm checking to make sure everything is working. You have enough time. It runs. It's not a virus. It's my own program.